next up we have Filth from, I believe it was 2013, in which a Scottish police officer named Bruce Robertson, who has all kinds of mental issues, is constantly messing around with his colleagues in an attempt to leverage himself towards a new promotion that's up for grabs, and on the way has some police cases to solve in order to make that happen. So as the movie progresses, we see Bruce kind of spiral deeper and deeper into all these issues that he's got going on. Now, I managed to see this one in theaters, and it wasn't a movie that I had even really heard of prior to the night going to the theater. I just remember, hey, I want to see a movie tonight, let's see what's out. Well, there's this R-rated movie. I looked at the trailer, it seemed kind of funny. I thought, okay, let's just go check that out. And I definitely enjoyed the movie. I was definitely pleasantly surprised by what it was. It didn't end up being kind of exactly what I expected it to be going in. But I do know that once I was leaving the theater, after so many funny moments throughout the film, and even though I spent a great deal of the movie, giggling and laughing and whatever, but I left the theater feeling like someone had kicked me in the balls. And, the movie's equally as depressing as it is humorous, so, a big part of that is obviously James McAvoy's performance, which is probably, for me personally, it's easily the best performance from him that I've seen, and just in movies in general, it's definitely one of the top performances that I would consider to be out there.
Yeah, so I know that this one is based off a novel that I've not read, and I don't know how well of an adaptation this is. Though if the novel is half as depressing as the book and this movie is, and it's probably worse, then I can't imagine wanting to read it. But it's a movie I knew pretty much nothing about going into. I pretty much knew what you wrote in your review, and that was about it. And it was close to what I expected. I can't think of a movie quite like it. It had a very interesting feel to it, because it certainly starts out a bit more, I guess you could say, comedically than it does depressing, but you very quickly see what it's going for. And obviously starring such a despicable character, it's somewhat, you can still feel some sympathy for him, to be sure, but it's not easy at times, and it's just, I think it's a really well-made movie. I don't necessarily find it an enjoyable experience. That can happen from time to time. It just, some parts of this movie are just difficult. And I don't know, it's interesting, but I don't know if it's quite the type of movie I could see myself watching all that often.
I'm just going to take a stab in the dark here, but I'm going to assume you had some difficulty with the accent.
Actually, that didn't bother me that much. No, to be fair, this is probably one of the most Scottish movies I've seen in a while. But it wasn't nearly as bad as, I think it was, God, what's a movie called Dead Man's Shoes? I feel like I had more trouble with that one than I did this one. There were some idioms and things they said in this movie that I have never heard before, and I didn't quite understand, but it was decently okay.
It's kind of funny because I would have assumed most people would definitely understand the accent from Dead Man's Shoes more than a Scottish accent.
Well, I think in this case, it helped that the version I watched of this movie had subtitles when I didn't have subtitles for Dead Man's Shoes. I usually always try to use subtitles if possible. So that was probably a big reason. And the quality of this movie is, it's pretty higher than Dead Man's Shoes was, so I think that's why I had an easier time with it.
Yeah, I personally, I don't really read books anyways, so it goes without saying I haven't read the book for this one either, but I do know it's from, it was written by the same guy who wrote the book for Trainspotting. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the movie Trainspotting.
I know there's something to do with a train, probably, and that's about as far as my knowledge goes.
Not so much. That's a movie worth checking out if you're ever in the mood, which I'm guessing you won't ever be in that mood.
I know it's constantly. I mean, I know it's usually rated as one of like the top 250 IMDb movies, so I know a lot of people love it, and it's probably a decent movie. So it might be okay to watch at some point in my life.
And there's a sequel to it too. Anyways, so just moving back to Filth, the James McAvoy performance is just, I mean, for me, it's really incredible. Probably or at least one of the big standout scenes for me is just this scene, I call it the witch scene, where he's having that conversation with the
woman detective.
Yeah, I can't remember if she was a detective or what her actual rank or title was, but anyways, seeing him go through all the highs and lows throughout that scene, the wide different of emotions displayed just in that one scene, the rage, the tears, all that kind of stuff all mixed together. And then they hit you with that kind of unexpected vision that he has, seeing her as a witch. There's a few moments in this movie that just unexpectedly kind of make you jump or go, ugh, that type of thing. And that was definitely one of them, at least for me. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah, I think it's clear after watching this with McAvoy's performance, you can see why he was cast and split, because the way he handles emotions throughout this movie is just fantastic. And I will admit I've not seen that many of his movies aside from Split and maybe a few others. This is easily probably one of the best ones I've seen of his, which is probably a good thing because I don't know if there's that many others necessarily stand-up performances here. But the whole he constantly has delusions and such, and the whole psychologist reasons he has, it's not necessarily creepy, but it does have sort of a ominous undertone to it.
They did have a somewhat nice cover of that Radiohead song "Creep" at the end, so
that was pretty nice.
Yeah, it really, I think, blended in with that scene quite well. And speaking of songs in the movie, obviously that happens right at the end, and then as soon as you go to the credits, it transitions into kind of one of the more, I guess, on the surface it sounds like a happy song, the song by Billy Ocean, but also it's a very depressing happy song if you listen to the lyrics as well. So that was a really good song choice. I believe that song's from the mid-70s. So to find a song that, I'm not necessarily going to say it sums up the entire movie well, but it certainly continues the theme of a lot of things in the movie, and you accompany that with the cartoon they have at the end, which is kind of a mini version of some events that happened, abstract events that happened throughout the film. Yeah, it just all summed it up really well for me.
This is going to be one of those after the wall comments, but I do want to point out the woman who played, I think her name was Banki. As soon as she came on screen, as soon as we heard her voice, I grew up in the Harry Potter time, and she's the same girl who played a ghost named Moni Immortal in the Harry Potter movies. Same voice and everything. So it's sort of funny seeing her, knowing her from a kids movie, and then seeing her in this role getting, sort of violated by this phone caller who, we all know who that guy was. So it's sort of an interesting change of events.
Yeah, I mean, I personally recognize her from Trainspotting, so well, it's kind of funny because my wife is a huge Harry Potter fan, and when she saw this movie, she spotted her. I'm pretty sure she said, "Hey, it's that girl from Trainspotting." I would have assumed she would have known her from Harry Potter, if that's the case.
Well, I'm not sure how big her role was in Trainspotting. It's probably decently bigger. It's just the voice. As soon as they heard, it's oh hey, it's that chick, which is interesting. To be honest, I never really think about that many actors from those movies in, I guess, more adult cinema. And that scene when she's sort of enjoying herself with the mysterious caller, that was definitely interesting. Sort of ruined my childhood.
Good.
But to be fair, there's a lot of things in this movie that can ruin childhoods.
Mm.
I mean, I like how one of the very first things we see the cop do, the main character, is just try to sexually assault a pretty young female. So that was some quality detective work.
Yeah. But, you know, at least he got to crush a little kid by getting rid of his balloon.
That is true.
So, for me, this is a movie that I really enjoy. And it just hits all the right levels for me, from the really good performance from James McAvoy to, you know, when a movie can actually make you laugh, but also not necessarily cry, but like I said, make you feel like you've been kicked in the balls. That's an impressive thing to do, I think. So I was really into it. I was really into some of the characters. I liked the music throughout the movie, all the different songs and theme music scores, all that. Yeah, it just, I couldn't really find a whole lot for me to really fault in the movie. So I'm going to go... I mean, I struggle between a 9 or a 10 out of 10. I'm going with a perfect 10 for this one.
Yeah, so I think my biggest issue isn't necessarily with the movie or the story itself. I thought it was a decent story. I don't think the there's sort of like a twist into the end, and I'm assuming most people weren't surprised by that, because I mean, Fight Club came out over 10 years early and had pretty much the same type of thing. So I wasn't necessarily surprised by it, and it just, I don't know how much it really made the movie better. I don't know, it just, I guess my problem with this one is, it was a decent movie, but I don't think there was that much to enjoy. I don't think it's a really fun movie to watch, and now granted I've only seen it once, but it's a movie there's a few scenes that are somewhat hard to stomach. You're just watching this guy with mental problems, being a cop, and he really should be a cop, being a dick to pretty much everyone he knows, and I guess he, you know, tries to be a better person, but it's, I don't know, it's just not. It's a few fun scenes, like the photocopying scene, but overall, I just didn't have like an overly, you know, fun time with this one. So I'm leaning toward like a probably a 7 out of 10, which is an average rating for me. There's some really good parts in it, and there's some, you know, stuff that either doesn't do that much for me or I didn't enjoy. So I mean, I don't think it's a terrible movie by any means, but I don't think it's a movie I can see myself going back to that often. Though I do think it's a movie it's not going to be easily forgotten, so it does have that part done.
Also, like some of the immature humor in the movie, like even just simply the beginning where he farts and he's trying to blame it on others, you know, that type of thing. Yeah, I'm into that. But before we finish up, it should go without saying, get your face off my cock.
Yeah, and that was actually pretty funny too. Getting that guy to pretend he knows the gay cop. That was amusing.
Yeah.
You have to feel somewhat bad for that guy, but that's okay.
In addition to all those immature moments, the part where he writes on the wall just that that guy sucks cocks, and then
he makes a giant scene about it.
Yeah, that cracked me up too.
Yeah, he's a quality representative of the police force.
I would have read that and I would have laughed as well. So.